Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Coming up tonight in Our News, Atlantis looking for all its managers to be fully vaccinated by February. An F&M senator resigns from the upper chamber. The cruise port's 2022 bookings exceed expectations. Plus, the chief magistrate welcomes new additions to the bench. Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, Free National Movement Senator Vienna Gardner has resigned. In a statement, opposition leader Michael Pintard said Gardner tendered resignation from the Senate effective December 31st. Gardner served as head of the deliverables unit in the Office of the Prime Minister under the Minnis administration. Pintard said she set a very high standard in her contribution to debates and wished her every success in her professional pursuits. The opposition leader did not say who will replace Gardner. Well, Atlantis looking to have all of the resort's managers fully vaccinated by early February. In a memo sent out to hotel management on December 30th, the resort said due to the rapid spread of the Omicron variant, there had to be a review of its current policies. The memo read, to date, 87% of our managers and above colleagues have been fully vaccinated. After much consideration, we feel it is important to set the tone at the top by ensuring that all managers are fully vaccinated, and we are working to achieve this goal by February 7th. The resort added that while vaccines won't eliminate the virus, it is the best way to protect its team and guests. Well, F&M leader Michael Pintard is calling on the government to outline the reason for frequent international travel by the Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers. According to Pintard, Prime Minister Philip Davis has traveled more times than any other Prime Minister he's known for the first 100 days in office.
It is important that the government clearly outline what meetings ministers are attending, and the Prime Minister, who has certainly traveled more than certainly any other Prime Minister that I'm familiar with in the first 100 days. Out of curiosity, we'd like to know what are the total amount of days that the Prime Minister has traveled thus far since he's been in office, and to ask a more fundamental question than simply complaining about ministers' travel. To what extent the Prime Minister is going to meetings that diplomats can quite easily manage those issues?
In November, Press Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Clint Watson, said government will not disclose the cost of specific trips of cabinet ministers unless there is some abnormality. Since taking office, several cabinet ministers traveled internationally. Davis and a delegation traveled to Scotland for COP26. Education Minister Gladys Hanna-Martin traveled to Paris, France, and Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper and a delegation traveled to Switzerland. Additionally, Davis, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, and Ambassador to CARICOM Leslie Miller-Bryce recently traveled to Barbados. Ahead of a recent trip to Washington, D.C., Mitchell dismissed the notion as rubbish.
It is important that since we have resumed international travel, that is government ministers and the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, that they can outline what is the purpose of these trips. Are the delegations fit for purpose? And what is the cost associated with it?
Well, Nassau Cruise Port ended 2021 on a high note, and as we begin 2022, the cruise port CEO says bookings have already surpassed 2019.
It's almost impossible to say it's not looking great when we look at what we've come from, but still, what I'm very excited about is that our numbers are even better than pre-COVID 2019.
During the holidays, Nassau Cruise Port saw 4 and sometimes 5 ships docked at a time, a telltale sign of the major rebound following the industry's shutdown during the pandemic. Mora says the pent-up demand for people to travel and take cruises has led thousands to book their trips with itineraries that include the Bahamas for the next 2 years.
Our vessel arrivals are booked and confirmed to be over the 2019 numbers. And again, our 2023 numbers even beat 2022. And again, it has everything to do with this brand new product that we're offering here in Nassau, but more importantly, the value of the Bahamas and the warmth of the Bahamian people.
Despite the country being in a 4th wave of COVID cases and the global spread of the Omicron COVID-19 variant, Mora says he sees the cruise industry doing just fine.
There are multiple testing requirements within the industry before a passenger ever gets on a ship. 100% of the crew are fully vaccinated and tested and monitored regularly. It still is one of the safest ways to travel, but protocols work. And it's enforcing the protocols and making sure that people are doing what they're doing, operating as safe as they possibly can. I think when you get down to the family level, I think we're still trying to work through and transition into this new way of life where you could have someone that's positive within the family. And so what does that mean to me as far as, can I go to work? Can I go to work? I used up all my sick days, all those kinds of things. So I think, I think that's a struggle that we are in transition with, here locally. I'm sure it's no different than any other, city around the world. But we're going to get through it. We are getting through it.
In the meantime, work continues on a world-class cruise port, which is expected to be completed by the end of this year.
About 80% through our marine construction. We started our work on our Upland Works, which is our arrivals building, our Junkanoo Museum, our living coral exhibit. We have 50 authentically Bahamian F&B and retail spaces that are coming on stream. We have larger retail and F&B, again, all authentic Bahamian. We have the amphitheater. We have the West Marina and the East Marina to support marine tours and so forth, because a lot of our tourists coming off these ships, get on a boat, they go to Atlantis, but they also go to Rose Island, they go to Blue Lagoon and other places. So everybody's excited about that. By the end of 2022, we will have our ground transportation area up and running. We'll have our Junkanoo Museum, our arrivals terminal, the Festival Place Marketplace, the Town Square, all in place and ready. And then following that, we'll have two iconic experiences being F&B experiences in the West. So we're excited about that.
Environmentalist and Save the Bay's executive chairman Joe Darville says too many companies are moving on after causing damage to the Bahamas' environment without any form of punishment or at least paying compensation. It comes after he called for more clarification on what damage has been done following the collision of a fuel tanker and yacht that resulted in fuel being leaked into Bahamian waters on Christmas Eve.
So these type of things in our environment, we have been given too many examples in recent times, Kyle, for us not to ignore everything about what is happening to our little bit of hard ground and what is happening to our immense, beautiful ocean.
Darville said governments have been elected pledging to do so much more for the environment, but he doesn't see much action.
We have, and the government needs, we have put them in power. We put the F&M in power. They neglected a whole lot of stuff with respect to the environment. We put now the PLP in power. They need to have the common sense, the diligence, the wisdom to know what they need to do about our precious environment. It is the only thing that we can rely upon to give sustenance to our people in the future.
In news from the courts, Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt applauding the decision to appoint half a dozen new magistrates to the bench as welcomed addition.
This year, we had an unprecedented amount of magistrates to join our team, 4 of them, and they were a welcomed addition. And particularly because we had a few retirements previously, and also this year, 2 among the magisterial team were elevated to the Supreme Court, and 1 resigned. And so we were operating with a half tank full of gas. But I'm happy to say I don't think we got to fumes because the machine kept on moving.
With the newer magistrates now acclimated to their positions, there are now 17 magistrates across the country. While she doesn't believe more magistrates are needed, Ferguson says she would like to see this.
I think what would assist the process, because of the complexity of matters which are coming to the courts, if we have specialized magistrates, in other words, magistrates with specialized expertise in a particular area. One of our former colleagues, we were blessed to have him, he was a CPA, and being an attorney as well as a chartered accountant, I believe that he had a greater and quicker grasp as it related to financial matters. And so certainly, I believe that that should be considered.
We've got more news on the way, but first, meteorologist Greg Thompson joins me in studio with a look at weather. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Kyle, and welcome everybody for your first look at weather tonight, brought to you by Ports International, trusted medical supplies for a better quality of life. A warm evening outside our studios ahead of a frontal boundary. We'll show that in a minute in our satellite picture, but temperatures in the mid-70s. 76 with a few clouds. Those clouds will be increasing as the evening goes on. Your winds are out of the west at 6 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature a very warm 78. Satellite view, that frontal boundary now pushing into the northwest Bahamas, weakening as it pushes towards the southeast. Maybe an isolated shower or two possible along that frontal boundary, but behind that, high pressure will be building in. And ahead of that, the high pressure that's across our area is pulling out towards the east. But moisture associated with the front will continue to affect our islands, but the front should park to the south of New Providence later on tonight and into tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, the TUC president grades the Davis administration's first 100 days in office. And a pediatrician describes the Omicron variant as a different beast. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. 4 months after signing a memorandum of understanding with the now governing PLP, Trade Union Congress President Obie Ferguson said they're satisfied with the progress made so far.
We are satisfied, right? We are satisfied that the agreement that we entered into on the 25th of August, we are working it with the government. The government has been very responsive, and I had made a commitment to the press at one point that we would have a press conference so we can itemize the progress we have made a little over 3 months.
In August, the PLP signed the MOU with members of the TUC and NCTU, pledging to address key labor issues if elected. Among the list of demands is an increase in the minimum wage. Ferguson said he doesn't think any union under the TUC is complaining about any major issues.
I think after 3.5 months, roughly, what we would have accomplished as a body over these 3.5 months is by far exceed 4.5 years.
His sentiments were echoed by 2 other union leaders, one of whom say they weren't able to get a meeting with the former government.
Certainly in the Customs and Immigration Union, we've been able to sit to the table, deal with issues relevant to promotions. We discussed the issue of contracts, and when we could in fact sit to negotiate those particular terms in those contracts. So that in itself is a significant change from what we had.
We have seen a major difference in how the union is being respected and handled under the current administration. The minister, Alfred Sayers, basically has an open door policy for the union, and he's always available to meet.
The recent announcement that the return to classrooms has been delayed by 2 weeks was a hard blow for many parents and students who looked forward to returning to some degree of normalcy. Christina Dragovich tells us what one pediatrician has to say about the postponement of in-person classes.
Omicron is a different beast per se. Yes, it might not be causing as serious disease, but it's traveling very quickly through our population, and we don't know who it's going to affect very adversely. So we still have to be very careful.
COVID case numbers are climbing across the board, including among younger kids who are not eligible for vaccination yet in the Bahamas. Dr. Sherelle Lockhart is a general pediatrician, but she's also a parent who understands the balance between keeping kids safe and having them return to the classroom.
I know that is causing a lot of angst for families, especially with the preschoolers. It is almost impossible to have them on any kind of virtual that's any length of time. We're going to be placed in a position where parents are going to have to do a lot of work with their younger kids, so it's going to be very difficult.
With in-person classes delayed for at least 2 weeks for students in the public and private school system, what advice does she have?
What I do encourage is, for employers to be understanding of the parents that still have to work, but they have nowhere for their children to go at this particular point in time. And I encourage parents to do the best that they can to protect their kids.
The Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training issued a statement noting that daycare facilities will remain open during that period before in-person lessons begin in or about January 12, 2022. However, Dr. Lockhart says whenever students return to the classroom, there should be some level of testing to prevent exposure to and the possible spread of the virus.
Even going back to school, I think we're going to have some testing before children even go back to school. I would encourage schools to make sure that kids get tested before they bring.
Thanks, Christina. Still to come, court digitization well on its way, and the Bahamian gospel artist starts the new year off on a high note. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is Our News. Welcome back. The Bahamas judiciary is well on its way to completing its mandate to step into the 21st century, according to Judiciary and Inter-American Development Bank subject matter expert Drazen Comerica.
It's been a challenge given the pandemic and given all the factors, but a lot has been done. And I think one of the most important things is what we said earlier, it's transformative, right? We're not just introducing new technology, we're changing the way things are being done. And that requires also changing mindsets and also educating the users, right? It's not just, here's new technology, go ahead. It's, let me show you how to use it, let me give you support. So once we install it, that's just the beginning of it, right? We now need to support it. The worst is when you invest money and funds in something, you install it, looks great, and then 3 months later, nobody's using it. So that is what is really crucial in this project, and that's why it's an 18-month project. And that's why CGSP plays a crucial role in what we're doing. They're supporting us with all the funding, they're supporting us with all the support that we need to get this stuff going.
In July, a contract was signed for the Citizen Security and Justice Program to provide digital and electrical upgrades within the court system. In December 2020, the Ministry of National Security signed 2 contracts totaling $2.4 million to develop and implement an integrated case management system and to completely digitize the judiciary's filing systems with the conversion of paper documents to digital files. Those technological advancements are a part of Chief Justice Brian Marie's vision for a higher functioning court system. Comerica says having upgrades is the first step, but keeping court staff up to date with training is another key component.
Part of the rollout is also training. In fact, we've also added additional training, not only how to use technology, but also realizing that some of our staff members require some more training in Windows, Word, Excel. So we want to beef up that part of it as well. So we're doing 2 types of training. One is on the new technology, the ICMS, how it works, digitization, how to scan a document, ensuring data integrity, which is important. And also then the other part of it is ensuring that staff know how to and feel comfortable to use this technology.
A local gospel artist is starting the new year with a new single. Bertha McDermott has more.
Regardless of what you have encountered, there's always something that you can find gratitude in. And that's where the song really comes from, that place of me saying that God has been good to me. Regardless of what I have been through, I can always find something to be grateful about.
That's the premise behind Good to Me, a new gospel song hitting the airwaves. Recording artist Sturman Roll says he's hoping the single transcends the traditional gospel space.
I want it to be where anybody can watch, listen, and they don't have to know necessarily, oh, this is a gospel song per se. Like, that's what I wanted to get from the song per se, to get anybody, Christian or not.
Roll, who is a praise and worship leader, explained the inspiration behind Good to Me.
When I wrote Good to Me, the melody came to me. That's the best way to describe it. I was coming home one day. I literally have the voice memo in my phone where I first recorded the chorus of the song. And it just was this melody that I heard. Oh, oh, you're so good to me. And I just recorded. I said, okay, let me record this before I forget it. And then I did that, and then I'm like, this could be a full song. And so then I sat down and I started to write, okay, so I'm saying you're so good to me, but I wanted to bring contrast. I wanted to bring the fact that life isn't always perfect. Life is not always good.
For this single, Roll will also release a music video that's a bit out of the ordinary when compared to other gospel music videos.
You're so good. You're so good to me. Yeah. You carried me through some heartaches.
Hear me, I don't want to have a traditional video where it's like church bop, clap. That's like, no, it's a whole no for me. I wanted to make sure it had like a fun feel, because one of the things that I always remember is that when we watch things and we listen to music, the video also sells what it is that we're listening to. And so if you feel like people having fun, it's a vibe, that people are just enjoying themselves. Yes, we're talking about God and talking about how He has been good to us, but at the same time, we're enjoying ourselves. I wanted to depict that through the music video itself, that God has been good. And so it allows you to have fun, have joy in the midst of everything I've been doing.
The single will be released on January 7th and will be available on all digital streaming platforms. The music video, which has a summery feel, will also be released next week.
I wanted it to be released in New Year because it's like almost like making that declaration in the new year. God has been good to me. Even the fact we made it to a new year and making it into a new year, God has been good to me. So that's basically the whole mindset behind us as to why I wanted to release it now. That God has been good, even bringing us, as we know, everything that we've gone through over the last 2 years, going into 2022, God has been good to us. The fact that we're still here and alive.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Still to come, Greg is back with a look at the week ahead in weather. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to Our News. A sunny start to 2022. Greg Thompson is back with the extended look at weather.
Thanks again, Kyle, and welcome everybody for your second look at weather on this third day of the new year 2022. Ridge of high pressure that was dominating our weather for the last couple of days is now pulling out towards the east. That provided some very warm temperatures across the islands today. But we have that frontal boundary now pushing into the northwest Bahamas, should get near the capital later on tonight and stall just to the south of us by tomorrow. High pressure behind that will bridge that front over the next couple of days, generating some very nice weather. Temperatures should get down near the 80-degree mark during the daytime hours, and we could see some low to mid 60s throughout the night, evening hours as well. That high will continue to push into the northwest Bahamas and eventually across the entire chain of island by the end of the week. We do expect another frontal boundary to get in here sometime by the weekend. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will start off out of the southwest ahead of the front, shifting north to northeast at 15 to 20 knots. A caution flag posted for you guys. 4 to 6 foot seas. High tide will be at 8:16 tonight. For the central and southeastern islands, your winds will be variable at 10 knots or less tonight, becoming east to southeast 10 to 15 knots tomorrow. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody. Back to you, Kyle.
Well, thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. We will see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a good evening, Bahamas.